Yeah. Well, hello everybody.
Hi, guys.
It's Monday Night Live.
You're just better at it than me. I tried so hard last week, and I
yeah.
did a good job.
You did a good job
But
last week. You did
Just
it.
don't have that lower register.
Oh, Monday Night Live.
Yes.
Well, welcome to Monday Night Live with wonderful Kate Semmens and Dean Nixon with Turningleaf Wellness Center out of sunny St. George, Utah. We're so excited as it is getting a little crispy out there.
Yes. In fact, if you can't tell, Christmas is on the way.
Hey now.
Got the red. It's No Shave November, so Dean was already bearded, but we're going to watch this bad boy take
You're
off.
going to watch this grow. So, in all fairness, our topic tonight has nothing to do with my beard. Our topic tonight is
emotional vampires. That's what we've been talking about.
emotional vampires. I love it. And or those individuals that tend to use emotions and emotionality to control a relationship, or as I like to call it, sometimes emotionally hostage taking.
Yes.
But as to the beard, in all fairness, it is No Shave November, and I will not be trimming the beard until the new year. So this is going to be very intriguing to see what happens. You have to
We should get you a polo that you wear every Monday Night Live. We'll just do
We'll
like
just draw a line.
marks as it gets long.
Every Monday night. We'll just have to go back through. Anyway, so
Do you guys love how Dean is like just so more politically correct than me? I'm like, vampires. And
Vampires.
like,
well, let me rephrase that to a
let's
different.
simmer down.
Simmer down. So anyhow, back to our topic for tonight, and we really wanted to talk about how oftentimes our emotional energy can get hijacked.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much to do that for some of us. For those who are very sensitive and very, very intuitive, oftentimes emotionally our emotions can get hijacked by comments or things that people say or things that people do. But there's a lot of different types of situations that can definitely affect how we allow people to either become, as you put it, emotional vampires, what was it, Wayne's World, sucking my will to live, and or emotional hostage taking.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional hostage taking is a really true thing. It happens.
Yeah. In fact, kind of how we got started on this topic a little bit tonight. Many of you know my 9 to 5 is I work for a crisis team, and I help parents manage ungovernable children in a time of crisis. And so oftentimes, without like violating any HIPAA laws, I'll ask Dean like about a situation and see maybe some better ways that I could help people. And we've had one going on today with a father-son duo who the son is like very hot and cold with his dad and seemingly takes him emotionally held hostage.
Yeah.
Oftentimes. And so that's how we landed on this topic. So
yes. And that happens. You know, a lot of times we as parents or family members or loved ones, we care so much about the individual, and a lot of times what happens is our emotional, and this is where it really happens. So emotional vampiring, as you call it, or emotional hostage taking, or the emotional overconnection, oftentimes has to do with where we're putting our emotional balance finders, so to speak.
okay.
So kind of like an outrigger. I don't know if you ever know what an outrigger is.
No idea.
Okay. So if you ever watch the canoes, like especially the Hawaiian canoes where they're paddling, and they have the big bars that go out in a little pontoon off to the side. Have you ever seen those?
Yeah, they look like for balance.
Yeah, they're a balance or an outrigger that create balance.
Okay.
And so oftentimes we create these emotional outriggers, these balance stabilizers, so to speak, in people. And we create our emotional strength and our stability based upon how that person's emotional well-being is.
Okay.
So when you have, does that make sense?
Getting heavy.
Getting heavy, getting deep.
Getting deep.
Yes. So my mind all started squirreling, and I'm not going to go there. But the point being is that we put a lot of our emotional well-being on other people's emotional stability.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do that, it makes it very easy for them to control our emotions or to or us to be overly controlling of other people's emotions. Sometimes we become the emotional vampire. Sometimes we become the emotional hostage taker, so to speak. And a lot of it has to do with, so an example with a parent, if a mother has a daughter who is often feigning suicide, and not to minimize that, oftentimes a lot of people are struggling and wrestling with that. But I'm saying that they're using that as a way to hold mom hostage. As a manipulation. That's where I'm coming from. What's happening is that the mother is putting her emotional stability, and she's basing it upon her child's emotional stability. And so she's basing her emotional strength and her emotional balance on the child. So then when the child is upset or frustrated or acting out or threatening, or even looks like they're going to be upset. Yes, right? Yes. Then the parent, then what happens as a parent is, okay, my emotional balance is on my child. And if my child does this, and then what happens is the parent starts to awfulize. The parent starts to prep and try to find answers for all the unknowns. And what we wind up doing is we create an energy that the child is sensing. And unknowingly, but sometimes knowingly, they use that as leverage to hold us hostage or to continue to pull on us. And so as you talk about that parent in that situation, that's oftentimes what happens is when the child wants what they want or getting what they want,
life is good, right?
Life's amazing.
They're getting lots of yeses and keys to the car, and
so all of a sudden the parent's emotionality is like, oh, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm in a good space. Johnny's in a good space. I can go out with my friends tonight. I can go do this tonight. But the minute you set a boundary or tell a child no, now they're standing there like a monkey dancing with a hand grenade, and you're like, oh no.
That's a really good analogy.
I don't know what's going to happen here.
Yes.
And that starts to become a problem.
So this happens in all sorts of relationships.
Yes.
Like not just child-parent relationship, but spousal relationships, friendships, coworkers.
Yes. And employees, employers, and in a lot of ways it can be. And so what we can do to really work with that is we can start to understand, okay, well, what is happening within me? Why is my emotional stability being projected outward? Why is my emotional strength and stability being drawn from or a reaction or response to somebody else's emotionality? And what do I need to do to take that back? What coping skills can I use to pull my emotionality back within me instead of using these emotional outriggers or emotional stabilizers in the other relationships around us?
Okay, so answer the question then. How do you do that? You're asking lots of really good questions.
I know,
Steve.
Right? I'm a good questioner.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can laugh at that
like
one all night.
Like a mouseketeer, kind of, but a questionnaire.
Yes, I'm a questionnaire. The best thing that we can do is really, first thing is we stabilize ourselves with getting our value from within.
Okay.
That's always the first step. We always talk about the greatest human need is to get our value, is to be of value. But the problem is we get our value externally. So we talk about in the 4 steps to confidence of how to get that value from within. And the more that I can get my value from within, and the more I can become emotionally grounded within myself, it's easier for me to have boundaries with other people. It's easier for me to say, okay, your emotionality is your emotionality. If you choose to harm yourself, if you choose to blame, if you choose to be angry at me, if you choose those things, I understand. However, my accountability is I've done everything that I can do, and now I have to let go. And that's some work. That's the work that we have to do.
Oh, my goodness. That's a lot of work.
Yes, that's a lot of work. But that's really one of the first steps, is really working on getting our value from within and our confidence within ourselves. The second piece is using the coping skills of focusing on our energy on what we want to create rather than what we're afraid of.
Right. Okay.
That's another piece. The second piece is we use the coping skill. They tend to be my two go-tos, but the coping skill of evidence gathering. I gather evidence that excuse me, that we gather evidence that the relationship has maintained through these hard times. We start to look at the evidence and go, okay, when they get what they want, they don't hold me hostage. When they don't get what they want, they hold me hostage. So that's where I use that evidence gathering, and now I start to deploy boundaries. And that's the piece that we come in as life coaches, is we come in and helping people learn how to set boundaries and negotiate boundaries with people.
Right. And so then also the coping skill of communication, right?
Absolutely. Yes. We've got to learn how to communicate in crises. And that's one of the biggest struggles that we have. Working with couples, for example, one of the things that I see happen a lot is couples get in the defensive. We spend so much time being afraid of being blamed or being the problem or being wrong that we're always on defense. We're always like in response. And so we're always snapping back or chirping back or blaming back, rather than learning to communicate and recognize we have to talk about the problem as the problem, not the person as the problem.
Absolutely. Which is a whole game changer in your ability to communicate.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. So I guess my next question, which might be not even answerable, is what are some signs, other than like these big things that we're talking about, that either A, you may be a little bit of an emotional vampire, or that you have one in your life that you need to try to help, I guess. I don't know.
One of the biggest indicators is simply this. Do people walk on eggshells around me? Then I probably struggle with being an emotional hostage taker or an emotional vampire.
Okay.
Because a lot of times what people are afraid of is the conflict, the response, the contention. And so if I'm always contentious, I'm always defensive, if I'm always unstable and always like a ticking time bomb, then I'm probably going to be one of those individuals wrestling with that. If you're wondering, well, do I have those people in my life? Then again, if you have people in your life that you feel like you're just walking on eggshells around them, you're afraid to confront them, or you're afraid to say situations, or you've gotten to the point where you just stop talking to them. You stop, you just listen. You're just like, yes, smile emoji, yes, thumbs up emoji. And then you're in a situation where you don't want to get pulled in. You don't want to be that person. And that's another one is are people consistently, kind of pulling away from you and backing away from you, or burning through relationships very, very quickly. These are things that let you know you're an emotional, you're in that emotional pulling rather than giving. And we have to recognize on an emotional level, we have to be grounded within ourselves to give emotionally, but also we don't want to be taking emotionally. So if I'm my own fountain and I'm supplying my own love, value, and grounding, then I don't need to draw from other people. Yeah. But if people give, I can take and give back to keep the balance in a relationship. Right. And that's the other part of it is sometimes you'll see people that will look only as, how does this relationship benefit me? What can I get out of it? How do you solve my problems? So if I have a problem where I'm trying to come up with situations with my finances, perhaps, and then I'm reaching out to another person to solve my financial issues, then it's like, oh, okay, then I might be in that situation again. So those are things that help us to understand. But on the flip side of it, we want to look around and say, what can I do, first of all, to not be that way, ground myself, get my value from within. If it's people in my life, then it's a matter of communicating, setting boundaries, and using those other coping skills.
Right. And I'm also just thinking, I've had people in my life who with relationship haven't been like as intimate with me as like either a family member or a super close friend, or, someone that's just kind of an acquaintance that ends up being an emotional vampire. And so for me, that becomes a little bit difficult to just like cut people out of my life. But that would be a really healthy boundary piece too, right?
Well, that's one of the things I discourage is I really encourage people, and I love how you put it. And I know that's not how you fully mean it, is cutting people out of our life is never really a solution.
Mhm.
Having boundaries with people in our life is a solution. So yeah, we don't want to be like snip by.
Yeah, deuces.
Ghosting people, as they call it, the cool kids now.
Oh.
That's what the cool kids say.
Cool kids do not ghost people.
They don't ghost people? No.
Cool kids don't.
They don't.
Mean kids do.
I'll-
I've been ghosted before.
We'll comfort her. But as you know, ghosting somebody or cutting them out of a relationship, it's not healthy. And again, that can be an emotional hostage taking style. Is
Yes.
It's this, you either accommodate me or I shut you out, this love hate kind of concept. And so where we set the boundaries, you're not really cutting people out of our relationship, but we're also putting a boundary in place that limits exposure.
Okay, I like that.
And limiting exposure is totally different than cutting somebody out. Cutting a person out is just putting a wall up, and that's not healthy. But if we're putting up a boundary that just says, look, here's where my space is, where do you feel your space is, and et cetera, et cetera. And I know that's a very simplified boundary explanation. Other videos we've gone deeper into it, and I don't want to spend the time.
And I'm sure we'll have
just
another boundary specific video soon. So.
I just squinted to look at the time, so
it's crazy.
I go so fast.
We love hanging out with you guys. Time flies when we're having a good time with you. So I did want to look and see what some of these comments were saying.
Yeah, we're getting a lot tonight.
Oh, Terry says she loves us. We love you, Terry. Sydney's waving. Robin asks if we're a couple. No.
Oh, no. But thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
I will too.
Yeah, that's an absolute compliment. No, we're not a couple, but
nope.
But thank you, Robin, for the question. Yeah, Kate's amazing, and she is. So hit her up.
Call me. No, Dean is my mentor.
Yes.
My teacher. I call him my Miyagi. So
Wow.
I'm lucky enough to be able to hang out with you as often as I get to.
But thank you for the question. She's so much younger. What a very flattering statement. I'm very grateful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ryan says, Dean, what's up, my brother?
Yes. I love you, Ryan. Good man.
And over here on Instagram, Trisha says, problem is the problem, not the person is the problem, with a thumbs up.
Yes.
I loved that too. Thanks,
yes.
Trisha.
Thank you, Trish. And it is
Got
such
a lot
an
of
important
thumbs up
pieces
happening
for
over
us
here.
to understand is when we objectify people, in other words, we turn them into objects by making them the problem. And when we turn them into objects by making them the problem, we get away from solutions. And that was one of the things that we really harmonized with tonight in our family support group, 6 to 7:30 every Monday night here. Shameless plug. You're welcome. Is we talked about, we've got to stop the us versus them. We have to focus on the we. We are not going to solve the solution or solve the problems in our nation, the things that are facing us right now, the issues that are dividing us and tearing us apart. We're getting caught up in all sorts of political agendas and political issues and getting torn apart. And I see friends that are tearing each other apart on Facebook and Instagram over somebody sharing their beliefs or their feelings. And when you're getting into this dehumanizing, you're the problem instead of the problem. We need to come together.
Yep.
And we need to start focusing on problems as the problems and not people as the problems. And that, man, I'm tangent, but
yeah, we can go on about that.
But that is a big issue for me. We've got to start being kind to each other. We've got to stop being so mean to one another. This is not serving anybody. It's tearing us all apart. And oftentimes it's so easy to be behind the glass window here, as I call it, and make some comments or tear people apart because they're sharing their beliefs or their views about the world instead of solving the problems which start right here. And I'm a big believer in that. Love is the answer, people. The Beatles got it right.
All you need is love.
It is the answer. It's what brings us all together. It's what makes us who we are. We got to start looking for the things that make us the same instead of the things that make us different. I'm here to tell you, we are all we are all the same under the skin.
Mm-hmm.
So much love to you all.
Yes, thanks for joining us. We got so many hearts coming up over here. So thanks, you guys.
Excited to see you again next Monday on Monday Night Live. And see how much longer the beard gets.
Yeah. Bye,
Good night,
guys.
everybody.